Welcome to the COMC Community Spotlight show. Of course, it's presented by the great folks at Central Ozarks Medical Center, where your health is their mission. And we've got our friend Zachary Prieb back with us. He joined us a few months ago. Had such a fun conversation talking about being a missionary, actually going into the field and doing that, and at the same time overcoming a hearing disorder. You lost your hearing completely, basically, got cochlear implants. So I kind of wanted to have you back to talk about what it's like to be a missionary and how you get into that. I mean, you're a smart guy. You got a biochemistry degree, and you could have taken that and, gone into the business world, made a lot of money, but you decide you want to be a missionary and move into the wild jungles of Indonesia. Why? Why did you make that decision? Why did you throw away the money, decide to be a missionary?
That's a good question.
Your wife ever say, why?
Why? Well, I guess for me, and this, I could speak for my wife in this because we're both kind of the same mindset on this. We just felt like if you find something you love doing, it doesn't really matter as long as your needs are being met. It doesn't matter what you're making. If you find something you love doing, it's a lot better than making a lot of money and being unhappy about where you're at. And we just felt this burden to work as like a full-time or a career missionary somewhere. We didn't know where initially to go, but we also, we kind of had, there are hundreds of organizations around the world. So to narrow it down, because we knew we wanted to do some kind of career mission work, we started looking at what we felt we could maybe bring to the table, so to speak, as far as helping where we felt the need was. There's a need everywhere. You can stay here, work here, go down the block or wherever, or go across the ocean. So we started looking at what we wanted to be involved with, and for us, our faith in God being essential, and seeing so many things, questions in the world that just seem to be answered really nicely through a lens looking at like a new life in Christ, for example. So bringing that to people that don't even have an opportunity to say no. Like here you can say, hey, do you mind if I share my faith with you?
Right.
People can say, no, okay, that's all right. Or others, yeah, tell me how you overcome certain difficulties and allow the power of Jesus to work in your life. But there are places around the world where they don't even have the opportunity. They've never even heard.
Good shot for just saying that, right?
And they're living in fear, and we see, well, we don't have to live in fear because we believe what we believe has overcome the things that people are afraid of. So anyway, so that was one. Then it's finding the organization. So then we look through, okay, which ones do this kind of work, that kind of work. We have a love for adventure. Like I grew up doing rock climbing, mountaineering, a lot of backpacking, got into surfing when we lived by the coast. We absolutely loved surfing. So we just outdoor kind of people.
Yeah.
I can sleep anywhere, I can eat anything. Can't hear anything, unfortunately, but at the time anyway. But that didn't seem to slow it down too much. So we thought, well, let's go somewhere where the average person doesn't want to go and just make the most of that. So yeah, we landed on Indonesia with an organization that worked primarily amongst, they call it unreached or least reached people groups around the world, mostly nomadic tribal type people.
And you enjoyed that?
Yes. Now, the role that we actually had, we did both. So we weren't living in it was fairly remote, but it was still close enough to a big city, although it's a very different city there compared to here. But our role was actually training the nationals, and so we had guys that came out of the tribes that we could train and teach.
Okay.
And overall it seemed like we could help in a bigger way by training others to do what we were doing as well. And we would go in. I'd fly into the remote locations where there's no roads. You just fly in. There's a little landing strip out there in the deep jungle. Work with the missionaries that were living there, bring them supplies. We did that on a regular basis, set up their solar power equipment or keep it maintained, help them with equalizing their batteries, whatever it might be, so that they could keep working and functioning as efficiently as possible there. And And then we would teach the tribal people that would come out, the students that would come to our school, we'd teach them and train them. So they're going back, and now you have 10 people that are doing the same thing that just one person would do.
Right.
So we did both of those, and loved it. Yeah, loved it. I mean, definitely had its challenges, some pretty big challenges along the way, but yeah, loved doing that kind of work.
And you took two young kids with you, a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And you were telling us earlier that was one of the biggest issues, was how you raise children, right?
Yeah.
What was different?
The interaction with kids is different. Disciplines are different. Who's raising the kid or watching the child was a lot different, at least from how we were trying to raise ours.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon that they would send their kids off at a very young age to go live with, whether it's family or just an acquaintance, so that they could maybe get a better education in that location. That was really common. Most of our Indonesian coworkers had grown up away from their family completely. And that was just normal. They didn't really think much more of, this is my dad and mom, this is my uncle, and this is Joe or Billy or Judith or whoever that raised me. And so it was different in that way, where we had a much more nuclear type of family concept.
It's a much bigger concept. As much trouble as we've had in this country keeping the nuclear family together, it's still a major thing.
Right.
Something you said earlier too, I want to ask you about when we come back, is what you ate. Because I think I heard you say, I've eaten about every kind of meat there is in the world. I want to hear about that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back with the COMC Community Spotlight Show. At COMC, your health is our mission. Central Ozarks Medical Center offers 3 OBGYNs at the Osage Beach Clinic and 2 pediatricians with same-day appointments available. At COMC, our doors are open to everyone with 5 primary care locations conveniently located across the Ozarks. COMC for the best medical, dental, and behavioral health care. Get more info on how COMC can help you at centralozarks.org. COMC, where your health is our mission. If you love the lake, you gotta love Lake TV. Welcome back to the COMC Community Spotlight Show. Zachary Prieb with us, missionary, who's been to Indonesia in the wilds, and also overcoming a hearing disorder, went totally deaf, got cochlear implants. So before we took the break, we were talking about what you eat. Like when you're in these different countries, you were in Indonesia in the wilds, and you've said you've eaten just about every kind of meat there is, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's 1 or 2 that I've missed along the way, but...
Like what weird kind of meats have you eaten? I mean, we think of chicken, beef, pork, right?
Yeah, and so those are good staples here anyway, but in a country where, like beef, for example, we learned pretty early on, as much as we like beef, we were not going to eat beef in Indonesia because for one, they're going to color it so it looks nice. So you think you got a nice steak that you just bought, and then you find out that, well, that came from a hardworking cow that had been on its last leg, pumped full of drugs to try to get one more week of work out of it, and right before it died of a natural death from disease or whatever other horrific thing it was happening to it, they decided to butcher it and sell it at the market.
Right, yeah.
So that's not good meat to eat. So chicken was common, fish, about every kind of fish, saltwater, it's an island country, so you have your ocean fish.
Yeah.
The fresh fish, they have a lot of farmed fish. But then going more what I would consider exotics, you've got the snake, cats, dogs, monkeys, other types of animals, kind of like your possums or squirrels.
And that's normal that they would eat cats and dogs and
Yeah, pretty normal. But they look at that as in now. So I have to be careful with this, because the general population, which maybe about 80% is Islamic. So it's actually the largest Muslim country in the world.
Okay.
Per capita number of people there. There are things that they consider unclean meat-wise, so they're not going to at least openly consume those meats.
Okay.
But aside from that, and more into the tribal areas, they're not
They're just looking to
they're just
stay
trying
alive.
to get right.
Yeah.
And then they'll have meats that were not their normal everyday kind of meats, but they would consider them like a delicacy or a specialty for some kind of a maybe like a big gathering or a wedding or some kind of big event that they're going to have. And then they'll have those other. So the dog and the cat in general are ones that they held at a higher, almost a delicacy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Strangely enough. And so any kind of event that they were going to have, it had to have a dog or a cat or things like that, because that was going to make it more official as far as what they could supply and serve to the guests. And they would have a variety of meat. So they'd have a bat platter over here. They've had something with snake chopped up right here. They got something with the dog all ground up and over here. They got some chicken over here and some other wild birds. And
wow.
Very interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we wouldn't cook all that ourselves. I'm not going to go cook a dog up. It's against my philosophy of like dog's man's best friend.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go eat my dog.
No.
But when we were there, as part of assimilating with the people and the culture, I'll eat anything. And that actually made a big open door for us as far as being accepted.
Yeah. Because it wasn't like, oh, we're better than that. We're not going to do. You had to kind of join in.
And there were other missionaries that wouldn't eat those foods, and that's something that those people would remember beyond anything else that happened. They say, well, you eat like them. You like the fat on the meat. You eat the skin. You eat this meal. These people don't want to eat that. They'll make their European or Western style whatever, and they're just going to eat that. And so
interesting. That's fascinating. The stuff that you have to learn. And we're down to our last 2.5 minutes here. But you had young kids. They grew up in this.
Yeah.
Did they enjoy it? Did they have fun? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and your son, I've seen your son several times. He walks around with no shoes. He doesn't like to wear shoes, right?
It's hard to get him to put shoes on.
Right. And I'm guessing a lot of that came from growing up out in the missionary field, right?
Yeah. I would think a lot of that kind of came along. That was home for them.
Yeah.
So when we moved back to the U.S., and initially we weren't intentionally going to be staying here long, but one thing led to another. We ended up changing where we were, particularly getting a surgery meant that we were going to need to stay stateside. So that was really, really difficult time in our life. That was difficult for the kids too, because Indonesia is home for them.
Yeah.
So that's, and they'd like to go back as well, whether long term or to just keep visiting the friends and people that we've known over there.
Yeah, and in fact, and again, we're down to our last minute here, but you just went back in a recent summer, last summer, and was that a really cool thing for the kids to go back and see their friends and do that and everything?
Yeah, we tried to pack as much. We were there for about a month, and we tried to pack as much as we could with meeting through all the people that we knew, and trying back into foods and visit specific places or special places that we had been at or around that were important places in our life.
Isn't this amazing? It's that people actually still do this, the family does, and you loved it. The family loved it.
Yep.
Okay, so if somebody is interested in missionary work, maybe going out in the field or whatever, would you be interested to talk to them? Would you tell them what it's about? How would they get in touch with you?
Calling, texting, or email.
Okay.
My email would be Zachary _Prieb at ntm.org, ZACHARY _PRIEB at ntm.org.
Okay.
And then the phone number was just 559-614-6818.
Okay, there you go. And we didn't even get time this time to talk about overcoming and losing your hearing. We'll do that on another show, so be looking for that. Zach, thank you for coming by. Appreciate it. Zachary Prieb, Ethnos 360. Thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you for joining us for Lake TV's Community Spotlight Show.
watching Lake TV.